Alivia Christine Kail, who went by Liz, was born on October 16, 1991, and by the age of 19, was living in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Tragically, on March 5, 2011, she strangely disappeared. Around 10:30 p.m. that day, Alivia left her brother's home in the 500 block of Edgewood Avenue with her boyfriend of 6 months, Alexander P. Lorenzi, who went by Alex. Alivia told her family she was heading to Florida with him and that he was paying for everything. Because of that, she only packed clothes and brought along some shoes. After leaving that night, in Lorenzi's red Ford Explorer with a Pittsburgh Steelers emblem, she was never seen or heard from again. When Lorenzi returned 11 days later to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he lived, Alivia was not with him. When her family asked him where she was, he gave 2 different stories. One story was that she had stayed in Florida, while the other was that he dropped her off in Mount Washington, Pennsylvania, where she'd been living with a roommate. 3 days later, on March 19th, her family officially reported her missing. The day she left, her cell phone was strangely turned off and has never been turned back on. Because of this, investigators can't confirm whether she made it to Florida. However, her family believes she was in Miami at one point and may have visited a female friend in Naples. In late March, police executed a search warrant on Lorenzi's property and found drugs, a stolen handgun, and items that belonged to Alivia, including possible blood-stained sheets in a rental vehicle. He was then arrested on drug and weapons charges, but has never been charged in Alivia's disappearance. For those charges, he pleaded guilty and served 3 months in jail. In August 2011, he was accused of killing his girlfriend's dog. When police attempted to arrest him, he allegedly assaulted an officer. Officers also found cocaine and approximately $6,000 in cash inside his home, leading to additional charges. Lorenzi also has a criminal history that includes theft and assault charges. Before Alivia disappeared, she'd expressed concern to her friends that she might be pregnant and that Lorenzi had become increasingly controlling and possessive. Over the years, police have conducted multiple searches related to her disappearance, including a large search near the Allegheny County Airport in West Mifflin, after receiving information that her body may have been disposed of in a wooded area. This was also the area where her cell phone last pinged, but unfortunately, nothing was found. Lorenzi remains the last person to see Alivia and has remained uncooperative. Despite extensive searches and years of investigation, no physical evidence has ever been recovered to explain what happened to her. Alivia Kail stood 5 feet tall, weighed 110 pounds, and had blue-green eyes and brown hair. She was last seen wearing jeans and a black shirt, along with either sneakers or Ugg boots. Alivia disappeared on March 5, 2011, and as of January 2026, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved. Diana Darlene Ramos was born on August 7, 1957, in Pasadena, Texas, to James and Elizabeth Atkinson. In the early 2000s, Diana married Raymond Ramos, and together they raised 2 children. Her family described her as a kind and deeply loyal individual who was fiercely devoted to her grandchildren. She was a very experienced flight attendant with 25 years of service under her belt. Because of this, she was very confident and comfortable traveling alone, and a cross-country trip to Philadelphia should have been no different. On September 25, 2023, Diana was found dead inside her room at the Marriott Hotel that's physically connected to the Philadelphia airport. Unfortunately, it took 2 days to discover her body, which should have never happened considering she was the lead flight attendant on a flight back to Los Angeles, and when she didn't show up, a wellness check should have been conducted but never was. Inside the room, investigators found Diana with a piece of cloth, either a sock or a shirt, lodged in her mouth. There were also several prescription bottles, but all were sealed and unopened. There was also no sign of forced entry, no obvious signs of a struggle, and no weapon recovered. Unfortunately, the room itself offered very few answers. There were also no surveillance cameras on the 4th floor, where the American Airlines flight crew was staying. As for the hotel keycard logs for Diana's room, they showed only one exit and one re-entry. While her death was classified as suspicious, her final cause of death has never been publicly released and has since been labeled undetermined. After her death, the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, known as APFA, publicly criticized American Airlines for failing to initiate a timely wellness check after Diana missed her flight, especially since it was only a short walk from the in-flight supervisor's office to the in-airport hotel. They also requested, due to safety concerns, that stays at the hotel should be suspended while the death is investigated. However, American Airlines declined. A letter of no confidence was then sent regarding Senior Vice President of In-Flight Services Brady Burns. The letter accused leadership of dismissing legitimate safety concerns raised by flight attendants. In the months that followed, flight attendants across the world anonymously shared their own fears regarding the safety of layovers and the lack of industry support. Unfortunately, it's now been over 2 years since Diana was found dead in her hotel room, and as of January 2026, her family is still seeking answers, and this case remains unsolved. Jennifer Cahill-Shadle, who went by the nickname Jenny, was born on January 9, 1956, and graduated from high school in 1983. By 2004, 48-year-old Jenny was living in State College, Pennsylvania, and was unfortunately struggling with severe alcoholism. She lived there with her husband, Sean Shadle, until 2013, when she moved in with her mother in Wilkes-barre amid a contentious divorce. In late April 2014, she returned to State College to be closer to her 3 children. However, without a permanent residence, she stayed with friends or at local hotels, including the local Quality Inn and the Roadway Inn. She didn't own a vehicle and typically traveled on foot, by taxi, or occasionally by megabus. She then strangely disappeared after being seen leaving the Walmart on North Atherton Street in State College at 4:15 p.m. on May 15, 2014. She was supposed to meet her daughter and estranged husband later that day to receive a new credit card, but never showed up. There was a possible sighting of her between 7 and 8 that evening at Simple Tan, located in the same shopping plaza as the Walmart. According to the owner of the tanning salon, Jennifer entered, soaking wet from heavy rain, and reported that she had lost her wallet. The owner and 2 employees attempted to help her locate it, but were unsuccessful. Jennifer appeared vulnerable and stranded, and has not been seen or heard from since that night. Unfortunately, she wasn't reported missing for 32 days. During that time, her family had contacted Ferguson Township Police, but they declined to treat her as a missing person, claiming that Jennifer had left on her own. By the time a press announcement was finally made, the family believed critical evidence and witness opportunities had already been lost. Her family decided they couldn't sit by and wait and began posting flyers and organizing their own search efforts, and eventually hired a private investigator. At the time of her disappearance, she didn't own a cell phone, a credit card, extra clothing, transportation, or access to money. Investigators questioned her estranged husband, Sean, and he said she had checked herself into a rehabilitation facility for alcoholism, but that claim turned out to be untrue. A few months later, they searched Sean's house, but had strangely notified him in advance. That search turned up no viable evidence. Jennifer Cahill-Shadle is described as having light brown hair and blue eyes, standing approximately 5'4". She was last seen wearing a light-colored V-neck t-shirt, capri pants, black shoes, and carrying a black shoulder bag. Jennifer went missing on May 15, 2014, and as of January 2026, she remains missing, and the case is officially classified as a missing persons investigation. Victor Melendez, Jr., who went by the nickname Shorty, was born on January 30, 1973. By 2002, he was married to Christina Reichert and had 2 children, Leanna and Rome. He was now 29 and known as a talented DJ and dancer. Unfortunately, a horrible tragedy in the summer of 2002 would leave Victor's family devastated. On the night of July 3rd, Victor, Christina, and their 2 kids were at Victor's mother's home in Lancaster having dinner. It was an extremely hot day and had reached a high of 94 degrees. Since Victor's mother had no air conditioning, Christina decided to leave early with the kids and return to the family's home on East Clay Street to stay cool. She wanted Victor to come with them, but he declined, saying he would either find a ride later or walk home. Christina didn't like the idea and told him to call her if he couldn't find a ride, but after leaving, she never saw her husband alive again. After she and the kids left, Victor hung out with some friends nearby, and then at approximately 3:07 a.m. on July 4th, as Victor was walking in the alley near the 100 block of Daphne Street and the 200 block of South Ann Street, a burgundy or purple four-door sedan, possibly a Pontiac with chipped or flaking paint on the trunk, pulled up next to Victor and called out to him by his nickname, Shorty. When Victor approached the car and leaned into the driver's side to speak with whoever it was, he was immediately shot in the neck. The car then quickly sped away. A witness saw the whole thing and called the police. When officers arrived, Victor had already succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene. It's theorized that Victor knew the suspects since he had willingly approached the car after they called his name. Christina and his family agree and say Victor would have never approached an unknown car at that time of night. It's almost certain, given the hot weather, that many people were sitting outside that night and could have identified the suspects, but sadly, no one ever did. The only information retrieved from the witness was a description of the car and the 3 suspects inside. The following suspect descriptions were provided by the Lancaster City Police. Suspect 1 was described as a light-skinned male, possibly in his mid-20s, with a chubby face and cornrow style or braided hair. Suspect 2 was described as a 17 to 19-year-old dark-skinned male with a white towel or cloth draped over his face and a fade-style haircut. The third and last suspect is described as a 17 to 19-year-old black male wearing a navy blue or black t-shirt. If you have any information about the murder of Victor Shorty Melendez Jr., please call the Lancaster City Police at 717-735-3300, or you can submit a tip through the Pennsylvania Crime Stoppers website at p3tips.com. Victor was found shot to death on July 4th, 2002, and as of January 2026, no one has ever been arrested for the crime, and this case remains unsolved. Yiear James Samuel West was born on February 8, 1988. By the age of 28, Yiear was the father of a young son and daughter, and was living with his mother in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. He was described as a devoted father who had a great sense of humor. Unfortunately, in late 2016, he strangely disappeared. On December 9th, Yiear finished his shift as a cook at the Outback Steakhouse at around 4 p.m. and left work on foot, as he often did because he didn't own a vehicle. After leaving, he stopped at Wegmans grocery store to make a purchase before surveillance cameras captured him at Corner News at 6:40 p.m., where he withdrew $200 from an ATM. It's unclear what the money was for, but after that, he was never seen or heard from again. The ATM was in a very busy area, and it would have been almost impossible to be mugged without someone noticing. The walk from Corner News to his mother's home was around 1.7 miles and should have taken him about 40 minutes, but he never arrived. He was also scheduled for a shift at Smoky Bones, which was only a short distance from Outback, and he didn't show up there either. Since there was no sightings of him after Corner News, it's theorized that he caught a ride with someone. If that's true, it's possible the person saw him withdraw the $200 and gave him a ride with the purpose of robbing him, but something went wrong. In the weeks before his disappearance, Yiear had stopped using his cell phone due to frequent calls from his ex-girlfriend. He had allegedly obtained a new one, but it's unclear whether he ever activated it, and his family was never given that new number. It's also possible that the $200 was to buy a new phone. The following Monday, December 12th, a tip came in from someone claiming that on the night Yiear disappeared, he jumped from the Black Diamond Bridge that spans the Susquehanna River between Wilkes-Barre and Kirby Park. Rescue teams searched the water but found nothing. While it was reported that Yiear had been depressed over his ex-girlfriend, his family doesn't believe he would have taken his own life and instead believes he met with foul play. Yiear West stood between 6'1" and 6'2" and weighed over 200 pounds. He was last seen wearing a blue sweatshirt, black pinstriped chef pants, black socks, black Croc shoes, and a black beanie knit hat, also known as a skull cap. He had shoulder-length dreadlocks and a beard, including a goatee. Yiear also had burn marks on his forearms from working as a grill cook and a scar under his right eye. If you have any information about his disappearance, please call the Wilkes-Barre Police Department at 570-208-4231. Yiear disappeared on December 9, 2016, and as of January 2026, he remains missing, and this case remains unsolved.